So this is what your finished ear is going to look like. You're going to have the color, the main color on the back of the ear, and then on the front of the ear you'll have this really pretty sparkle white colored yarn. So you're going to make 2 ears, but you're going to actually have 4 triangles. So you want 2 of the white sparkle triangles and then 2 of the main color triangles. So I'm going to show you how to make one of these triangles. So again, you're going to need 2 of the white sparkle triangles and then 2 of the main color brown triangles. So I'm going to show you how to make one of the triangles with the white sparkle yarn. So you just take your yarn, you fold it over on itself to form a loop, take your crochet hook, go right through the loop, hold the base of the loop with your middle finger and your thumb. Then you just yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through the loop for a slip knot. Go ahead and cinch that knot down and then cinch the loop around your crochet hook, and then you're going to make a chain. You're going to make a chain of 16, and I'm just going to show you 4 of them on video tutorial. So you just yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through the loop for 1 chain, 2, 3, 4. So go ahead, finish a chain of 16 and then come back. So after you finish your chain of 16, you're going to make a single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So you take your crochet hook, go into that second chain from the hook, bring up a loop. You have 2 loops on the hook. Go ahead and yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through both for a single crochet. And then you're going to make 1 single crochet into every stitch back across. And when you finish this row, you should have a stitch count of 15. So 1 single crochet in every stitch back across. So now you should have a total of 15 stitches for that first row. The initial chain is called the starting chain, and this row that we just finished is the first row, and you should have a total of 15 stitches after that first row. Then after you finish your last single crochet in the last stitch, you're just going to turn your work. So just turn your work, and then you're going to go into the next stitch over. So you just go right into that next stitch and then bring up a loop and then make a single crochet. And then you're going to make 1 single crochet into every stitch back across, and when you finish this second row you should have a total stitch count of 14. So now you should have a total stitch count of 14, and we're going to continue just turning our work and making single crochets all the way across, and then you'll notice that each row is going to be decreased by 1 stitch. So you're going to turn your work after you finish that last single crochet. Just turn your work, and again you're going to go into the next stitch over, bring up a loop, and then make a single crochet. And then you're going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch back across. And when you finish this row, you should have a stitch count of 13. So now you can tell you have a stitch count of 13 after finishing that row, and you can see that it's starting to slant at an angle, forming a triangle, which is what you want. So you're going to keep repeating this. You're going to turn your work, make a single crochet into the next stitch over, and 1 single crochet in every stitch back across. And you'll notice that it should only decrease the stitch count by 1, so when you finish this row you're going to have 12. And you're going to keep turning your work and making a single crochet in every stitch back across until you have a total of only 3 stitches in the row, and then come back. So this is what my work looks like so far, and I just finished the row where I have 4 stitches. So I'm going to turn my work and then make a single crochet into the next stitch over. So that's 1, and then make a single crochet into the second stitch, and then in the third stitch you're going to slip stitch into that last stitch. So just yarn over and pull the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. Then you can go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and then pull enough yarn through just to bury into your work. So that's how you make the ear triangle. And again, you're going to need 2 of the white sparkle color or the white color, and then you're also going to need 2 of the brown or main color for your dog, and then come back. So now you should have 1 of the white and 1 of the brown for one ear, and then the other one for the other ear. So mine, I already did one of them, made one of them. So I'm going to set that aside, and then I'm going to show you how I made it using these 2. So what you do is you just place the white sparkle colored yarn on top of the main colored yarn, and then I usually tie the loose yarn ends together, and then I'm going to bury those into the work. And then I have one at the top, but those are on opposite sides, so I'm just going to leave those, and I'm going to bury those as I get to them. And then you're just going to join your crochet hook into the corner. Now you want to join so that the white portion is facing you, and then just take your crochet hook and go into that bottom corner into both stitches, the white sparkle colored yarn and the main colored yarn. And then you're going to bring up a loop with your main colored yarn. Then after you join in the corner, you're going to make a chain of 1. I'll do that again with you. So I tied my knot, and then just yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for a chain 1. Then you're just going to go into the next stitch over, and you're going to have to evenly space your single crochets across the side of both triangles. So you can see how I grabbed a stitch of the white portion and the main color portion. And then you just bring up a loop and then just make a single crochet. And you're just going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch along the side. When you reach the top, come back, and then I'll show you how I make additional stitches around the curve of the ear at the tip. So go ahead, finish making 1 single crochet in each of the stitches across the side, and like I said, try to evenly space them along the side of both ears, and you're crocheting the 2 pieces together with the brown or main color yarn. So now I reached the first curve, and when you reach the first curve at the tip of the triangle, you can go ahead and tuck the loose yarn ends in towards the center as you reach them. And then you may need to make a couple of single crochet into the same stitch as you turn to the top of the tip of the ear. And then you just go into the next stitch and then make a single crochet, and then you reach the other corner. You just grab both panels, ear panels, and then you want to tuck the loose yarn ends in the inside, towards the inside of the ear. And then just make 2 single crochet into the same stitch. Let me do that again. Looks like I grabbed part of the loose yarn in, so I'm just going to pull that through. Then you can go into the next stitch, and if you need to, you can place 2 single crochet into that stitch as well. And I'm just going to tuck that loose yarn end out of the way. And then you can see how that forms the nice curve for the ear. This is how it looks on the back. Then you can just resume making 1 single crochet in every stitch evenly spaced on the opposite side. And then come back. Then when you finish your last single crochet on the opposite side, go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and pull the yarn through the loop and pull enough yarn through to sew the back portion of the ear. You're going to use the same color yarn for sewing the back of the ear, and then you're going to use your white colored yarn to sew the front of the ear. And then you could tuck any loose yarn ends into the inside of the ear, and if you need to, you can take your tapestry needle and just go right in where it comes out of the ear, so it comes more into the direction of the inside of the ear, and you can just tuck it in. So now go ahead and get your ears ready. Make sure that you have 2 of them, and then I'm going to show you how to sew them onto the dog. So for mine, I sew the white portion on first, so you just need some of your white sparkle yarn on your tapestry needle, and then you're going to take your ear and the head of the dog, and I line up my ear so that the top, the magic circle is showing at the top of the head, and then my white portion goes right up to the edge of the magic circle. So you could either use the edge, if yours lines up at the same place, you can use the white portion to line up the inner part of the ear. If not, then you can kind of find where the magic circle, use that as a landmark, and line up your ear that way. Or you can just use the eyes, and mine is about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about approximately 6 rounds up from the eye. And then you just want to shape the ear so that you have a slight triangle with the white portion. And then the bottom portion of the ear should be towards the lateral aspect of the eye. So then you take your tapestry needle and then you just kind of line it up. And mine is approximately 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches back. So you line up about approximately 5 stitches back and then go in with your tapestry needle. Then you want to kind of line up your triangle portion of the ear. So you're going to go up with your tapestry needle. Make sure that you leave a little bit of a loose yarn end for tying a knot. And then I usually will go back towards where I went in with the white colored yarn. You want to position it and then tie a knot. Then you can kind of lay the ear again, and like I said, I shape it into a triangular shape. Make sure you keep it positioned the way that you want. You can kind of pull it if you need to and shape it into kind of like a not really a V, but a U shape, and then come up with your tapestry needle. You can always reposition it. Then I'm going to take and go about a stitch over and then come out with my tapestry needle where I have the inner portion of the ear placement, and then just go up into the white portion to secure the inner portion of the ear. So that's how I sew my ear in place for the front portion. And then you just want to go back. Make sure you don't sew the back of the ear. You only want to sew the front of the ear with the white portion. So I kind of move the back portion out of the way. and then you want to exit after you're finished sewing. You want to make sure that the front is secure and that there's no gaps. And sometimes you can go back a stitch, and then I'm going to exit where I came in so I can tie a knot. And you can go one more time too if you need to sew down the white portion, but I think I've sewed it enough, and I'm just going to position it so it looks good. I'm happy with the placement, so I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot. And then you can trim the loose yarn end. Make sure you leave enough to bury into your work. So now I have my 2 loose yarn ends for the white portion, and then I still have a lot left over that I'll use with my other ear. Then you can take the long end that you left with the main colored yarn for the back of the ear, and then you're going to position the back of the ear into a soft U on the back, and then you just go down into the head and then back up on the back of the ear, and then sew the ear in place along the back. Then when I'm finished sewing the back and the front is secure, then you can take and tie a knot. I like to go through twice. Then you just take and go up into the ear and make sure that you didn't go through to the front, just along the back, and bury the loose yarn end into the back of the ear. And then you're going to take and bury the white portion into the white portion, making sure not to get the white portion on the back of the ear. Then you can take and sew the other ear on the exact same way. Make sure that your ears are the same distance on both sides and that they're equal and symmetrical after you're finished. This is what mine looks like when I'm finished. You can see that they're equal on both sides and even on the top. And then this is what it looks like from behind. So now you can set the head aside. We're going to make the body. So for the body, you're going to be starting it the exact same way that you did for the head. I'm going to go ahead and start it with you because sometimes when I've started the body from where we left off with the head, some people get confused. So I'm going to start with you the same way. So you're going to take your yarn, drape it across your 4 fingers, use your thumb to stabilize, and then wrap the yarn around your 2 middle fingers, and then hold it in place with your pinky and your thumb. So you can see how I wrapped it twice around my 2 middle fingers. Then I'm going to take my crochet hook, go under those 2 loops, bring up a loop, yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and then go through the loop for your slip knot. Then you're going to place 6 single crochet into the magic circle. So go back into the circle, bring up a loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through both for a single crochet. So that's your first one. We need a total of 6 single crochet. So I'm going to make 6 single crochet into the magic circle. So here's my 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Then you just hold the base of the 6 single crochet with your 4-finger and thumb. You have the 2 loops on the opposite side. Go ahead and pull on one of them. If it doesn't close, let go and pull on the other one, but this one's closing. Don't worry if you don't get it completely closed. You can close it more later. Then let go and grab that loose yarn end and pull on that to close it. Then you're going to turn your work so that you're going to work in rounds, and you're going to go into the first stitch in the round. Make sure you grab both loops of that first stitch, and then you're going to make 2 single crochet into the same stitch. And then you're going to make 2 single crochet into every stitch around until you have a total of 12 stitches in the round. Now, after you have 12 stitches in the round, you can take and turn your work over and pull on the loose yarn end on the back if you need to close the center of the magic circle. Then you're going to take your loose yarn end, place it right where you left off, and then we're going to continue with our increase rounds. So for the body, you're going to increase all the way up to 1 single crochet into 8 stitches and then 2 single crochet into the 9th stitch. So I'm going to get you started. For the first increase round, you're going to make 1 single crochet into 1 stitch and then 2 single crochet into the 2nd stitch. And you're going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. So 1 single crochet into the 1st stitch and then 2 single crochet into the 2nd stitch. And then repeat that pattern all the way around. So now, if you remember, you know what the stitch count is by adding 6 to the previous round. So we had 12 stitches on the previous round. If you add 6 to that, that means that you should have ended with 18 stitches for this round. So I'm not going to give you the stitch count because all you have to do is add 6 to the previous round and then you have your stitch count. So now go ahead and move your yarn marker up to where you left off, and then for the next increase round you're going to make 1 single crochet into 2 stitches and then 2 single crochet into the next stitch. And then you're going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker, 1 single crochet into 2 stitches and then 2 single crochet into the next stitch. So now you should have the pattern down. You know that we made 1 single crochet into 2, then 1 single crochet into 2 and then 1 single crochet. Our next round would be 1 single crochet into 3 stitches and then 2 single crochet into the next stitch. Then the next one would be 4, 1 and 5, 1 and 6, 1 and 7, and then the last increase round will be 1 single crochet into 8 stitches and then 2 single crochet into the next stitch, and then come back. So now, after you finish all of your increase rounds, again your last increase round should have been 1 single crochet into 8 stitches and then 2 single crochet into the next stitch. You should have a total of 60 stitches in the round if you did it correctly. Now you're going to take and move your yarn marker up to where you left off, and you're only going to put 1 single crochet in every stitch around. And you're going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch around for 45 rounds. So 45 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch around. So now I've finished 45 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch, and this is how the body looks so far. I had to go to my second skein as I crocheted the body. Then we're going to take and stuff the body with craft stuffing and get ready to close the body. So after you finish placing the craft stuffing, and you can add more craft stuffing as you close, you're going to go ahead and take your yarn marker and place it right where you left off. And then for the first decrease round, you're going to make 1 single crochet into 8 stitches. So 1 single crochet into 8 stitches. Then after you make 1 single crochet into 8 stitches, you're going to single crochet 2 stitches together. So go into the next stitch over, bring up a loop, go into the next stitch over and bring up a loop, yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through all 3 for a decrease stitch, or single crochet 2 stitches together. So the same thing that we did for the head. Now you're just going to repeat this pattern, 1 single crochet into 8 stitches and then single crochet 2 stitches together. Repeat this pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. Then you just keep removing the yarn marker and placing it up to the next round, and you're going to decrease chronologically just like you did for the head, and then it'll get smaller and smaller. So the next decrease round will be 1 single crochet into 7 stitches and then single crochet 2 stitches together, and then the next round will be 1 single crochet into 6 stitches and then single crochet 2 stitches together. And now I'm on round 1 single crochet into 5 stitches and then single crochet 2 stitches together, and I'm going to repeat this pattern all the way around. So you just keep decreasing chronologically all the way down to 1 single crochet in 1 stitch and then single crochet 2 stitches together. So now after you finish that last round of 1 single crochet in 1 stitch and then single crochet 2 stitches together, your work should look like this. And you can go ahead and remove your yarn marker, and then you're just going to make single crochet 2 stitches together until you're almost closed, and then you're going to slip stitch closed just like you did for the head. So I'm just going to do a couple of single crochet 2 stitches together so you can see how I'm holding my fingers and making the stitches. And then I'm going to go ahead now and slip stitch it closed. I'm trying to get it under the video for you. So now you just skip a stitch, go into the next stitch, yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and bring the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. And you're going to continue to slip stitch all the way around until the work is completely closed. So this should be the last one. And then I'm going to go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and then just pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. And then you could take your tapestry needle, place it onto that loose yarn end, and then go right in where you finished off and then come out anywhere. And then just give a gentle tug on the loose yarn end, and then that buries it. So now we're going to sew the head in place, and it doesn't matter if you put the head on this side or this side because we're going to be covering both ends with fur anyway. So decide which side you want to place the head, and you're going to need the main color on your tapestry needle, and then just place the head so that the snout end is pretty much in line with the front of the body. And then once you position the head, make sure that the nose is midline with the center of the body. So don't have the nose facing this way, left or right, unless you want the head crooked. Otherwise, just place it straight ahead. I usually like to have it straight ahead. Then, once you're happy with the placement, you're going to take your tapestry needle, and then you're going to usually start on the back of the body, right under where you're going to go into the head. Just go into the body and then up into the side of the head with your tapestry needle, just like that. And then you just take and pull it through. And you want to leave a little bit of a loose yarn end for tying a knot and for burying into your work. And then you want to make sure that your head is still positioned the way that you want it. And this first round is basically just to secure the head. So it doesn't matter if you skip a lot of stitches as you crochet around, because you're going to come back several times and add to the strength of the sewing of the head to the body. So again, keep the head straight. This first round is mainly to keep the head positioned the way that you want it. And then once you go into the head, then you're going to go back about a stitch over, back into the head, and then back down into the body. And then come out in the front of the body, right under the head. You can always reposition the head once you pull the tapestry needle and the yarn through. And you can either continue sewing around or you can go back and tie a knot, but I'm going to go ahead and just sew all the way around and then tie a knot when I reach the original entry point. And again, I always reposition the head and make sure that I have the head straight. And then if you come out of the body, then you're going to go a stitch over on the body right where you came out and go back in and up into the head and then come out on the other side. And then I like to sew it that way because if you go straight down from the head into the body, you're going to see the yarn strand sometimes. So that's why I'm just making sure that the head is straight. That's why I go a stitch over. I came out on the head, so I'm going to go a stitch over on the head. I'll go a little bit lower. And then I'm going to go down into the head and the body and then come out the next point where I want to sew the head. And that's how I sew the head in place. And then I'm just going to double check again, make sure that I have the head still facing straight. And then I came out of the body, so I'm going to go a stitch over and then back up into the head and then come out. And you're going to repeat this process several times until you're happy with how the head is sewn onto the body. So after I've finished making several rounds of sewing the head in place, I usually finish right where I started, and then I take and tie a knot. And you can go ahead and trim the loose yarn in too. Make sure you leave enough to bury. Then you can take your tapestry needle, put it onto those loose yarn ends, and then just go right in where you tied a knot and come out anywhere on the body. Give a gentle tug and then trim the loose yarn end, and that's how you bury the loose yarn ends. Now, after you have the head sewn on, you're ready to make the fur collar. So on video tutorial, I'm going to be using the easier yarn for people that aren't used to working with the pipsqueak yarn. But this one is called Yarn Bee Tender Touch Snow, and this style of yarn is still a little bit fuzzy, but you can still see the stitches as you crochet. Towards the end of the video, I'll show you how to use this pipsqueak yarn. Pretty much you're going to use the pipsqueak yarn the same way, except you're going to be using a larger crochet hook. So you're going to be using your 6mm crochet hook with this style of yarn, but you're going to be making it the same way. At the end of the video, I'm going to be showing you a little bit of what it looks like to work with this yarn. And then on the back, this style of making the cup for the back of the dog is a little bit trickier with this yarn. So I'll be showing you, getting you started with how to make the pipsqueak yarn for the cup portion on the back. But the snow yarn is going to be similar, so I'll explain the differences when you get to the end of the video if you want to use this style of yarn. So if you've never used this style of yarn before, I would recommend starting with the snow yarn that I'm going to be using on video tutorial, and then if you like this style yarn, you can use that next. You can see how that style of yarn just looks really beautiful. So this is the puppy, and the puppy has a separate video tutorial, but you can see how it looks really adorable with this pipsqueak yarn. It looks like real fur with the pipsqueak yarn. So the first thing that we're going to make is the collar that goes around the neck with the snow colored yarn. And if you're using the pipsqueak yarn, then you would just make it in a similar fashion, except you use a larger crochet hook. Yes, I was testing the crochet hook. So I'm going to use my 3.75mm with the snow style yarn. But if you're using the pipsqueak style yarn, you're going to use your 6mm. So with the snow colored yarn, we're going to see what you want the chain to be. The initial chain is going to be the width of the collar. So with the pipsqueak yarn, I started with a chain of 9. So with this yarn, I'm going to show you what I started with. So you just take your yarn and you're going to fold it over on itself to form a loop. Take your 3.75 millimeter crochet hook, go right through the loop, hold the base of the loop with your middle finger and thumb. Then yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through the loop for your slip knot. Go ahead and cinch that knot down and then cinch the loop around your crochet hook. So now you're going to make a chain. So I'm just going to show you 4 chains on video tutorial. You just yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through the loop for 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm just going to show you the size difference. So this is the pipsqueak yarn using a 6 millimeter crochet hook, and I started with a chain of 9. So this chain of 9 measures approximately 3.5 inches. So one of these blocks is an inch on my board here. So approximately 3.5 inches. So I want to make the snow colored one approximately the same. So it measures also approximately 3.5 inches. And I'm starting with a chain of 15. So you're going to need a chain of 15 with the snow colored yarn. And if you're using a different style of yarn, just make sure that it measures 3.5 inches with your starting chain. Then you're going to take your crochet hook and you're going to go count back to the 4th chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So in the 4th chain from the crochet hook, you're going to make a double crochet. So go ahead and yarn over, go into that 4th chain from the hook, bring up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through 2 loops remaining, yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through the 2 remaining loops to complete a double crochet. And then you're going to make 1 double crochet into every stitch back across. So you just yarn over, go into the next stitch, bring up a loop, and then complete your double crochet. And then you're just going to make 1 double crochet in every stitch back across. So this is how my crochet work looks right now. And this is the width of the collar. So if you want a little bit wider collar, then you would make it a longer chain, but I would recommend this width. Then what you're going to do to move up to the next row is chain 3. 1, 2, 3. This counts as your first double crochet for the next row. So then you're going to turn your work, and then you're going to make a double crochet into the next stitch over. And each of your double crochets should line up with the previous row. So you just yarn over, go into the next stitch over, and then complete a double crochet. And you're going to keep making 1 double crochet in every stitch across, and then chain 3 to move up to the next row, and then turn your work and repeat. And you're going to keep doing this until your collar fits all the way around the neck of your dog. So if you're using a different yarn, then you may have a different number of rows than mine. But that's all you do, is you just keep chaining 3 and making 1 double crochet in every stitch across until you have the length that you need to go all the way around the neck of your dog. And when you come back, I'll show you how many rows that I have for mine. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish this row with you. So you can see that if you're just looking at this, it looks like that it's even, but we know that 1 double crochet lines up with the previous rows double crochet. And for mine, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 double crochet. So I know that I have one more on the end. So I'm going to finish that last double crochet on the end. So make sure that you have the same number of double crochet for each row. It's 1 to 1. That way you'll have straight edges for your collar and it won't be getting bigger or smaller. Then when you finish the row, you just chain 3, turn your work, and then repeat. So you're going to make a double crochet into the next stitch and 1 double crochet in every stitch across until you have the length that you want for your dog's collar, fur collar. So for mine, I made a total of 19 rows, and you can see how the edges are nice and straight. That's how yours should be if you made it correctly. Then after you finish the 19th row, or however many rows that you need to complete your collar, what you'll do before you finish off is just take your dog and measure the collar. It should wrap around the neck and you should be able to meet in the back. So you can see how mine meets in the back. But you're not going to sew it yet. You just want to check it and make sure that it'll fit around the neck of your dog. And again, I used 19 rows for mine. And then once you're happy, go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to help sew the ends of the collar together and to help sew the collar to the dog. But you're not going to sew the collar to the dog yet because we need to make the chest portion. So what you're going to do is you're going to find the center. So you just fold it in half and then find the center. And you can use one of your stitch markers. I'm just going to use one of my safety pins as a stitch marker. Just put it right in the center. And then we're going to join our yarn. Then you're going to need 2 additional stitch markers. Just leave those to the side right now. If you don't have a stitch marker, you can use a yarn marker or an extra scrap of yarn to just put into the center so you know where the center falls. Then just take and place the collar so that the center is lined up with the center of the body, because now we're going to make the portion that goes along the chest and also under the body of the dog. So I have it lined up, the center with the center of the body, and now I want to place a stitch marker on the left side and the right side. On video it's the left side and the right side. So you can see that I have the center, and then I have the right side and I have the left side, and that's where I'm going to make the center strip that goes on the chest and under the belly of the dog. And if I lay this on my board here, you can see that I have about 2 inches between this marker and this marker, and then 2 inches between this marker and this marker, and it's directly in the center. So then you can take and turn your work over, and then you're going to join your yarn into the space that you have your stitch marker. And then you're going to take the snow yarn or pipsqueak yarn, whichever you're using, and then you're going to bring up a loop and then tie a knot. And then you're going to make a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. And then that counts as your first double crochet for the strip that's going to go across the front chest as well as under the belly. So now you want to make 1 double crochet into the next space. So here you're working along the sideways double crochet. So you're working in the space below the double crochet along the side of the collar. So in that space, just bring up a double crochet, and in the same space you should have 2 double crochet. So this first chain 3 is actually in the stitch before the double crochet on his side, so I won't count that one. I'm going to make 1 more double crochet into this space. Then you can just make 2 double crochet into each of the double crochet spaces across. And actually, I'm going to, because I don't want any gaps, I'm going to go ahead and make a double crochet into the space between the double crochet spaces, because I want it to be filled. I don't want any gaps. So then in the double crochet space, I'm going to make 2 double crochet into the same space, and then that brings me to the stitch between the double crochet spaces. Then I'm going to make a double crochet into that stitch, and then 2 double crochet into the double crochet space. And when you reach the yarn marker or stitch marker, you can go ahead and remove it. This is my center stitch marker, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that one. But I'm going to leave the last stitch marker because I need to know where to stop. So go ahead, finish making your double crochets across until you reach the last stitch marker. And then come back. So now I'm going to go ahead and remove my last stitch marker. And then you're going to go ahead and move up to the next row. So to move up to the next row, you're just going to make a chain of 3, turn your work, and then the same way that you did for the collar, making the collar, you're going to make 1 double crochet into the next stitch, and then 1 double crochet into each stitch back across. And then you can see when you lay this on the dog, that this strip is going to go right down the front of the chest of the dog. Now, depending on what yarn that you use for your project will depend on how many stitches that you have going across. For my snow style yarn, I have a total of 22 stitches across for mine. And when you come back, I'll show you how many rows that I made. And again, I'm covering the chest of the dog as well as the underbelly. So I'm going to make this length cover the front chest as well as the underbelly for my dog. And you just continue just like you did for the collar. You chain 3, turn your work, and then make 1 double crochet in every stitch across until you have the length that you need. When you come back, I'll show you what length mine was. For my snow colored yarn, it's approximately 5 inches across in width for the front chest and underbelly portion. For the pipsqueak yarn, the female dog that I made, the pipsqueak width was approximately 6 inches. So I made it approximately 6 inches in width across the front and underbelly of the pipsqueak style yarn. So for mine, I finished approximately 27 rows. And before you finish off, you just want to double check it. So you just get your dog and place the collar around the neck where you think you're going to position and sew it in place. And then you just run the length down the front of the chest as well as the bottom of the dog. And this is where I ended up on the back, because we're going to be placing the the round portions on the back. So we're going to make those and cover this back area. So this is about where I went, and mine measures approximately 15 inches from the start of the rows to the end of the rows, if you used a different style of yarn. Then once you're happy and you finished your last row, go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and pull enough yarn through to sew this portion, or help sew it, onto the dog. And then just cinch that knot down. And then we're going to position this piece onto the dog and sew it in place with our tapestry needle. So now just put the long end that you left for sewing on the tapestry needle, and then you're just going to wrap the collar around the neck of the dog. Make sure that it's centered on the front. Then just wrap it around to the back, and then on the back of the dog you're going to take the tapestry needle and then go through the stitch on the opposite side, connecting the two pieces of the collar. Then you can go ahead and tie a knot with the loose yarn end. And you can tuck that loose yarn end towards the inside. And then you're going to grab a stitch on the opposite side and then go across to the stitch but on the other side, and then you're going to connect the two sides together, the two pieces, and you're going to sew the two pieces together in the back of the dog. Before you sew it in place onto the actual neck of the dog, you want to make sure that you sew the two pieces together. So you can kind of bring them together and then just take your tapestry needle and then grab a stitch on one side and then a stitch on the opposite side. Then once you've sewn the two pieces together, you're ready to make sure that it's positioned in the front the way you want it, just under the snout. Make sure that the front is also centered along the front of the chest and for it to go under the dog. Then you're ready to sew the fur onto the actual dog. So then you just go in and out into the dog and then back out along the fur and then just sew it in place. So I usually sew the bottom of the collar first and then sew the top of the collar, and I just go in and out sewing it in place. When you run out of yarn, just grab some more yarn, place it onto your tapestry needle, and then this is my leftover yarn from the initial yarn piece that I was using. And I'm just going to go right in close to where I finished off, and then make sure you leave enough loose yarn end to continue so you can bury it later, and then just tie a knot. And then just continue sewing in place. Make sure that you conserve how much yarn that you use for the fur, because unless you bought 2 skeins, but you should be able to finish with 1 skein. This is what I have left over for the back portion. I still need to finish the back portion of the fur. So then once you've positioned or sewn the collar in place, the bottom of the collar in place, you can take and go up towards the top. And then sew that in place. Just position it where you want it and then sew it in place. So then After you finish sewing the collar in place, you're ready to sew the underbelly. And I don't sew around the center. I always just sew along the edges. So I just go, I already sewed across the back, and now I'm going along this side. And I just go, make a small stitch on the side that you can see, and then you can go a little bit longer on the wrong side with your needle, and then just bring the needle through. And then you're able to sew it in place. And then when you need more yarn, you just add more yarn. And that's how I sew the fur on the body. So this is what it looks like after I have the collar in place, and then I have the front chest fur, and then underneath, and then this is what it looks like on the back. And then of course I have it lined up so that it's not crooked on both sides, and it's about the same amount that it goes up on both sides, so you don't have one side higher than the other side. So those are just attention to details that I would recommend that you do as you sew. This is what it looks like with the pipsqueak yarn. So you can see that it just looks really fuzzy and soft. So I would recommend starting with this if you're not used this style of yarn, if you're not used to the pipsqueak style of yarn. But once you've done this and you liked making this dog, you may want to attempt using the pipsqueak yarn for your next dog. So now I'm going to show you how to make the trademark back portion of the Corgi dog. So now you're just going to get your snow colored yarn, and we're going to start with the magic circle. So just drape your yarn across your 4 fingers, use your thumb to stabilize, and then wrap the yarn around your 2 middle fingers twice, and then hold it in place with your pinky and your thumb. And then you're going to take your crochet hook, go under those 2 loops, go ahead and bring up a loop, and then yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for a slip knot. Then you're going to make 6 single crochet into the magic circle. So just bring up a loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through both for a single crochet. And again, you're going to make a total of 6 single crochet into the magic circle. So there's my 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Then you just take your 4-finger and thumb, hold the base of the 6 single crochet. You have the 2 loops on the opposite side. Go ahead and pull on one. If it doesn't close, let go and pull on the other one, but this one's closing. And then just let go and pull on the loose yarn end. Then you're just going to turn your work to work into the first stitch on the round, and you're going to place 2 single crochet into the same stitch. So just grab both loops of that stitch, bring up a loop, make a single crochet, and then you're going to make a single crochet into the same stitch, and you're going to make 2 single crochet into every stitch around until you have a total of 12 stitches in the round, and then come back. So now you can take and turn your work over and pull on that loose yarn end if you need to close the center of the magic circle. Make sure that it's nice and closed. Then take your yarn marker, place it right where you left off, and then we're going to make our increase rounds. So we're going to make 3 increase rounds, and I'm going to show you the first one. So for the first one, you're just going to make 1 single crochet into the first stitch, and then 2 single crochet into the next stitch. And you're going to repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. So 1 single crochet into the first stitch, 2 single crochet into the second stitch, and then repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker. So now you should have a total of 18 stitches in the round, and all you have to do to get the stitch count is just add 6 to your previous round, and the reason is because we started with the 6 single crochet magic circle. So we had 12 stitches on our last round, and then this round that we made we have 18. 12 plus 6 is 18, so that's how you can get the stitch count. So I'm not going to give you the stitch count anymore because all you have to do is just add 6 to the previous round. So now for the next increase round, you're going to make 1 single crochet into 2 stitches and then 2 single crochet into the next stitch. And then you just repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn markers. So 1 single crochet into 2 stitches and then 2 single crochet into the next stitch, and repeat that pattern all the way around back to the yarn marker.